Starting real estate can feel overwhelming, but there's one hack that makes it so much easier for beginners. And it's not just another real estate trend or something that you need a ton of money to pull off. It's a strategy designed to make investing easy, even if you've never done it before. In this video, I'm going to break down why this hack works so well for beginners, how it sets you up for success, and how you can use it to start building your real estate portfolio. I know this works because it's how I got started, and it's helped my wife and I grow our net worth to over $5 million. The strategy is called house hacking. It's one of the easiest ways to start investing in real estate. If you guys don't know what house hacking is, it's a simple way of saying that you buy a house and you rent out the spare bedrooms to other people, whether they be friends or random people that you met on Craigslist. Either way, the concept is very similar to having roommates, except you own the house instead of paying rent to your landlord. So now I get it. You might be thinking, I don't want to live with roommates. But honestly, house hacking, especially when you're younger, is one of the best ways to build wealth and get started with real estate investing. Now, the first reason why house hacking is the best way to start real estate investing is that it teaches you how to buy a house in the first place. If you've never bought a house before, it can feel overwhelming. There are so many steps like finding a house, putting in an offer, getting a loan, buying insurance, figuring out your closing costs, and dealing with escrow. It's a lot, but you can start simply by buying a home that you'd actually like to live in and then rent out the extra rooms to make some extra income. This way, you ease into the process. And when it's time to buy your next property, you already know the basics. You can focus on the next steps, like renovating the place to increase the value or hiring a property manager to handle the work for you. It's a step-by-step process. So instead of diving straight into a fixer-upper across the country and trying to do everything at once, you can start with something manageable and then build from there. And while you're figuring things out and keeping it simple, there's another huge advantage of house hacking that makes it even better. And the second thing that's amazing about house hacking is that it allows you to get immediate cash flow. After all, you always need a place to live, right? And if you're making a ton of money from your full-time job, you're probably living in a high cost of living area. So that means you're probably spending $2,000 a month in rent, which is money that you're never going to see again. But what if instead of losing that money forever, you can actually turn it into income that can help you pay for your biggest expense? Since you have to pay the kind of money anyway to live in this area, now you're able to charge your roommates a certain amount of money that might be high enough so that you don't have any monthly payments, meaning that you can do more with the money you make from your job. So for example, when I bought my property in the Bay Area, my monthly payments were actually comparable to rents in a more bougie apartment, but I had extra bedrooms and the house felt pretty empty with just me. So that's when I realized that the potential was sitting right in front of me. So I made a Facebook post to my friends and gave a pretty good discount for rooms in my house. And slowly people started coming in and living in my property. Over the years, I eventually filled out all the extra bedrooms I had, and I even rented out my converted garage downstairs. And when that happened, the monthly rents that I charged my roommates actually covered my mortgage payments and most of my property taxes. My own housing costs were basically just a split of the utilities that I shared with my roommates. And for them, they got a pretty sweet deal because they got to live with me, an amazing landlord, and I was also charging them below market rents because they were my friends. So overall, this whole system worked out really well for all of us. And it became like the ultimate bachelor pad where we all had great times during those years. Now, since they were paying me rent every single month, my cost of living was basically zero, and I was actually making a good amount of money in my job in the Bay Area. I could then take my high income from my full-time job and use that money to invest more money into the stock market. So that eventually became me having more money for a down payment of my property. So by house hacking, this really snowballs your wealth because you're able to get this influx of cash to lower your cost of living, especially if you live in a high cost of living area, while still being able to make that premium wage from these jobs that are in these high cost of living areas in the first place. And while lowering your cost of living is great, there's another powerful advantage that comes with owning your own home. So the third reason why house hacking is the perfect step for investors is because when you own the house, you're not just paying to live there. You're actually building ownership in something valuable over time. So here's how it worked for me. The rent that I collect from my roommates helped me pay my mortgage payments, which means that it was being used to pay down the loan itself. And that means that every month, I owed a little bit less to the bank. At the same time, the property's value kept growing because the Bay Area market was appreciating during those years. So not only was I paying down the loan, the house also becoming more valuable on its own. But compare this to renting. Sure, living in a fancy apartment might feel more luxurious, but after 10 years of paying $2,000 a month, I would be $240,000 poorer with nothing to show for it. And that's assuming that rent stayed flat for 10 years. So owning a house is much more worth it than renting. And when you're building something on your own, the benefits don't stop at just growing your equity. The next reason why house hacking is a great way to start investing is because when you buy a property as your primary residence, you actually get all these benefits when it comes to getting a loan in the first place. Lenders know that lending money on an investment property is inherently more risky than lending on a primary residence. Because during times of stress, people are more likely to give up their investment property than their actual home. They're gonna do everything they can to continue making payments on their primary residence, but if push comes to shove, they will let go of their investment properties and stop paying the mortgage on it. So because of this, lenders are able to give you a lower interest rate on your primary residence than on your investment properties. You're also able to have lower down payment options. But for investment properties, you typically have to put down at least 20% down for a single family home and 25% down for a multifamily property. But You don't always need 20% down if you buy your own property. For your primary residence, with a conventional loan, you can buy properties with as low as 3% down. And with an FHA loan, you can get loans with as low as 3.5% down. And if you qualify, you can even get a VA loan or a USDA loan for 0% down. And if you're a doctor or lawyer or other higher earning professional, there are special programs that also allow you to buy properties for 0% down with super low interest rates. So you can qualify for these low down payment loans and then get them at much lower interest rates, all because you're buying a property that's your primary residence and not an investment property. Now, the only other requirement is that you do need to live in the property as your primary residence for at least 1 year. Otherwise, it's considered mortgage fraud. So what's the best thing to do? Just live in a place, buy the property with these great terms, and then move, doing the process again and again for another property. Also, when you buy a property and you live in it as a primary residence, the property taxes that you have to pay are typically lower too. It's called a homestead exemption. So it allows you to pay less property taxes because this is your primary residence. And while saving money every year on property taxes is great, there's another tax benefit that could put even more money in your pocket when it's time to sell. And so the fifth reason why house hacking is an excellent strategy for real estate investors is because you get better tax benefits by living in the property thanks to Section 121. So normally when you buy and sell an investment property, you have to pay capital gains taxes if you sell the property at a profit. So what a lot of investors do is use something called a 1031 exchange to defer those capital gains taxes until you sell the next property you buy. But a 1031 exchange only defers the taxes. You will eventually need to pay these taxes unless you hold a property until you die. But with Section 121, things are different. It states that for every person who's on title and has lived in a property for 2 out of the last 5 years, then you can exclude up to $250,000 of profit from capital gains. So if you're married and you and your spouse are both on title and you do meet the 2-year requirement, then you can exclude $500,000 of profit from your taxes. There aren't really that many other ways to make money completely tax-free outside of things like a Roth IRA or a step-up in basis when you inherit property. But by house hacking and just living in the property and doing this for at least 2 years, you could sell the house and potentially make up to $500,000 in tax-free profit, and then use that money however you want. You don't even need to buy another piece of real estate. So that's an amazing benefit of house hacking that you don't get from other type of investment properties. So these are reasons why house hacking is the perfect strategy for new real estate investors. It's a lot easier than buying a random property remotely. You can take better care of the property because you're going to be living there every single day. And you also have control over choosing your tenants since they're going to be your roommates. So they're likely going to be your friends and you're going to enjoy the process much more. If you guys have any questions about house hacking or you want to know more about my personal experience with it, then feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. House hacking can set you up for success, but most people make mistakes before buying their first home that cost them time and money. Don't let this happen to you, and watch this next video to learn the mistakes to avoid so you can start your real estate journey the right way. Thanks for watching, I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Take care.